There's this hidden force at work all around us. It's powering everything from the drill at your dentist's office to these huge, massive machines you'd see on a factory floor. And it's not what you think. It's not electricity, it's not hydraulics, it's just air. Yeah, really. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into the incredible world of pneumatics and see how the simple act of squeezing gas is literally what drives so much of our modern world.
All right, so take a look at this list. You've got some really heavy-duty stuff here, right? Factory clamping, stamping, and embossing, but then also super delicate things like packaging and filling, and then precise work like drilling. So what on earth do all these have in common? Well, the answer, and it might surprise you, is compressed air. And that's exactly what we're going to break down right now, how that actually works.
Okay, so let's start with the name, because it's actually pretty cool. The word pneumatic comes all the way from ancient Greek, from the word pneuma, and that means breath or wind. Which is, it's a perfect name, right? Because at its heart, that's all pneumatics is. It's the science of harnessing the power of air.
So, to put a finer point on it, what is pneumatics? Well, it's the study and, more importantly, the application of pressurized gas. And look, 99% of the time, we're just talking about plain old air. To produce mechanical motion, we're taking something that feels like nothing, something that's all around us, and we're using it to do some seriously powerful work.
Okay, so how is that even possible? How do you turn something as simple as air into a total powerhouse? Well, the whole secret, the magic ingredient, if you will, is just how compressible it is. Think about it for a second. You can't really squeeze water, right? And you're definitely not going to squeeze a block of steel. But gas? Oh yeah, you can absolutely squeeze gas.
And really, the fundamental idea behind it all is so simple, it's brilliant. You just squeeze a whole bunch of air into a really small space. That's it. When you do that, you're storing its potential energy. It's kind of like coiling a spring really tight, or pulling back the string on a bow. All that energy is just sitting there waiting for you to let it go. It's basically a battery made out of air. How cool is that? Now, of course, this isn't some kind of magic trick. It's all based on solid science. And the great thing is, the way gases behave is actually super predictable. It's all governed by just a few simple rules. So, let's get into it. Let's break down the 3 big laws of gas that make all of this possible. And to really get a feel for these laws, we're going to use a fantastic and really simple analogy that comes straight from the source material. Just a regular old syringe, like you'd see at a doctor's office. So, just imagine you're holding one in your hand right now. This little plastic tube is going to show us everything we need to know. All right, first up, we've got Boyle's law. Now, all this says is that if you keep the temperature the same, the volume of a gas and its pressure are inversely related. What does that mean in plain English? Simple. The more you squeeze a gas into a smaller space, the harder it pushes back. Less volume equals more pressure. Okay, let's go back to that syringe in your hand. So first, pull the plunger back a bit to suck some air in. Got it? Now, take your thumb and just block the little hole at the end so nothing can get out. Okay, now try to push the plunger in. See what I mean? You can feel it, right? That resistance gets stronger and stronger. That is Boyle's law. You're making the volume smaller, and the pressure inside is shooting up, pushing right back against you. Okay, next up is law number 2, Charles's law. This one is all about the relationship between volume and temperature. And it's pretty straightforward. If you keep the pressure the same and you heat up a gas, it's going to expand. It's going to take up more space. Back to our syringe. So let's do this again. Trap some air. Block the end with your thumb, but this time don't push on the plunger. Instead, just imagine you're warming up the side of the syringe with your hands or maybe a hairdryer. What's going to happen to that plunger? It'll start to move out all by itself. The air inside is expanding because it's getting warmer. That's Charles's law in a nutshell. More heat means more volume. And that brings us to our third and final rule. This one connects pressure and temperature. So if the volume can't change, let's say the gas is trapped in a totally rigid, sealed container, then heating that gas up is going to directly increase the pressure inside. All right, one last trip to our imaginary syringe. So you know the drill. Trap some air, block the end, and imagine that heat source again. But here's the key difference. This time, use your other hand to hold that plunger so it absolutely cannot move. You're fixing the volume in place. Now, as that air inside gets hotter, it desperately wants to expand, but it can't. It has nowhere to go. So what happens? The pressure inside just goes through the roof. You'd feel it pushing like crazy against both the plunger and your thumb. So, okay, we figured out how to create all this pressure and play around with it. But, to actually make it useful in the real world, we've got to be able to measure it. So let's talk about how we actually put a number on all that pushing force.
Yeah, you've probably run into a whole bunch of different units for pressure, and honestly, it can get a little confusing, so let's just quickly break it down. If you're reading a scientific paper, you'll see something called pascals. If you're watching the weather report, they're probably talking about bar or atmospheres. But the one I know you've used is PSI, pounds per square inch. That's what you're looking at when you fill up your car tires. At the end of the day, they're all just different ways of measuring the exact same thing. How much force is being applied over a certain area?
Okay, so here's a fair question. In our super high-tech world, with all these advanced electronics and really powerful hydraulics, why are we still using something as simple as compressed air for so many jobs? Well, it turns out there are some really good reasons.
Let's put it head-to-head with its biggest rival, hydraulics, which, as you know, uses liquid like oil instead of air. First off, speed. Pneumatics is fast, way faster than hydraulics. Now, it can't generate quite as much raw, brute force, that's true. But think about safety. If a pneumatic line breaks, what happens? Psh, a little air escapes, no big deal. If a hydraulic line breaks, you've got a high-pressure, potentially hazardous fluid spraying everywhere. Big mess. On top of that, pneumatics is generally cheaper, and you can easily store that air battery we talked about in a tank, ready to go at a moment's notice.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it's that this idea, which is literally ancient, harnessing the power of pneuma, of breath, is still an absolutely vital cutting-edge technology today. It's clean, it's incredibly fast, and it's super efficient. From massive factory robots to that tiny drill in a dentist's office, the simple act of compressing air is quietly doing incredible things all around us, every single day. And that really just leaves one last question, doesn't it? What will we power with air next?